I knew the quarterly alignment meeting was going to be a disaster the moment I saw the stale pastry platter. It was that sad corporate assortment of dry pumpernickel and blueberry imitation bagels that looked like they had been sweating under plastic wrap since the last fiscal quarter, paired with a tub of cream cheese that had definitely seen warmer days. But the real warning sign was the room itself. It smelled like fear and cheap cologne, a specific scent I had learned to recognize over 20 years in information technology. We were herded into the main conference room, which the higher-ups called the visionary suite, because apparently naming rooms after actual functions, like Conference Room B, was too boring for a modern fintech company. I stood in the very back, leaning against the server room doorframe, which was my natural habitat. My name is George Henderson. I am 55 years old, and I do not do corporate synergy. I do not do circlebacks, and I certainly do not do whatever the hell was happening at the front of the room. I do security. Specifically, I manage the dark, boring, and terrifyingly important intersection where this private financial firm, Apex Wealth Management, touches the federal government money. Enter Julian Vance, the new vice president of technology. Julian is what happens when a LinkedIn profile gains sentience and buys a Patagonia vest. He is 31, has teeth white enough to blind a pilot, and speaks exclusively in TED Talk subtitles. He had been with the company for exactly 3 weeks. In that short time, he managed to use the phrase paradigm shift 47 times, I actually counted, and had yet to log into a single administrative console correctly. He tapped the microphone, sending a screech of feedback through the room that made half the engineering team wince. Team, family, rock stars, Julian started, flashing a smile that did not reach his dead shark-like eyes. We are entering a new era, an era of agility, an era of cloud-first, lean-forward, disruptive innovation. I checked my watch. It was 9:04 a.m. He had exactly 6 minutes before I had to run the daily encryption cycle on the federal node. To get there, Julian continued, his voice dropping to that fake warm summer tone executives use when they are about to ruin lives. We need to trim the fat. We need to shed the legacy weight that is anchoring us to the past. The room went completely silent. You could hear the hum of the HVAC system and the distinct sound of a junior developer hyperventilating near the windows. George, Julian said. He did not look at a piece of paper. He just looked right at me, pointing a finger gun. He used actual finger guns in a layoff meeting. You are a legend here, really, but your role, it is redundant. We are moving everything to an automated cloud infrastructure managed by an external vendor in Dallas. The on-premise hardware is dinosaur technology. Today is your last day. The air left the room. People turned to look at me. I saw pity in the eyes of the older systems administrators, the ones who knew that my dinosaur technology was actually a hardened localized server mandated by the Department of Defense. I did not blink. I did not get angry. I just felt a strange cold clarity wash over me. It was the same feeling I get when I see a red line in a server log, a problem that needs isolating. Is that so? I asked. My voice was completely flat. It is. Julian smirked, clearly enjoying the power trip. HR has your severance packet. Security will escort you out of the building. Oh, and George, please leave the company laptop on the table. Asset retention policy. Now, here is the part where most people would scream. They would shout about their 15 years of service. They would talk about the weekends spent patching zero-day exploits, or the holidays missed keeping the network from imploding. I almost did. But then I looked at the laptop in my hand. It was not a standard issue Dell. It was a heavy, matte black unit with reinforced ports and a biometric scanner that required a fingerprint and a retinal match to boot the operating system. It was one of only 3 audit nodes in existence, on loan to our company. Julian, I said, stepping forward. Are you sure about the hardware? This is not a standard workstation. Company property, George, he snapped, his smile fading into annoyance. Leave it. We will wipe it and repurpose it for the interns next week. Repurpose it for the interns. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. He wanted to give a machine containing classified cryptographic keys to a 20-year-old intern so he could make TikToks on his lunch break. I walked up to the table. The entire room was watching the old guard surrender to the new blood. I placed the laptop gently on the mahogany surface. Okay, I said. It is all yours, Julian. I turned to leave. Hey, hold up a second, he called out. I stopped. Badge 2. I unclipped my badge, the one with the special holographic stripe that allowed entry into the sensitive compartment information facility in the basement, and tossed it next to the laptop. "Good luck with the cloud," I said, walking toward the exit. "We make our own luck," Julian replied, already turning his back to me to address the terrified survivors. I walked out of the conference room, down the long hallway lined with inspirational posters that said things like grit and hustle, and into the elevator. My hands were not shaking. My heart was not racing. I was in diagnostic mode. Because here is the thing Julian did not know. That laptop is not just a computer. It is a literal piece of federal infrastructure on loan to the firm. It is tracked, it is monitored, and most importantly, it has a red warning plate on the bottom that he did not bother to read. As the elevator doors slid shut, cutting off the view of the office I had built from the ground up, I reached into my pocket. My fingers brushed against a small metal USB drive. It was not data I had stolen. I am not a criminal. It was my personal encryption key backup, something I am legally required to keep on my person at all times per the terms of my clearance. Without me, and without that key, the audit note on the table was not just a brick. It was a time bomb, and Julian had just decided to sit on it. I walked out into the parking lot. The sun was shining, and I had a feeling that the Department of Defense was going to be very interested in Julian's asset retention policy. I sat in my car, a practical sedan, and stared at the building. I could see Julian through the glass walls of the conference room, gesturing wildly, probably explaining how much money he just saved the company by cutting my salary. "Idiot," I whispered. I started the car. I did not go home immediately. I drove to a diner 3 towns over, ordered black coffee and cherry pie, and sat there for 2 hours just breathing. I needed to let the timestamp solidify. He needed the logs to show a clear gap between my termination and whatever stupid thing he was about to do next. The game had started, and he did not even know he was playing. My home office is a sanctuary of cable management. There is no dust, there are no tangled wires. There is a triple monitor setup that hums with the low, steady frequency of a well-oiled machine. It is the exact opposite of the chaotic open-plan nightmare I just left behind. I sat down in my office chair, took a deep breath, and exhaled. The adrenaline from the morning was finally fading, replaced by the dull ache of insult. Redundant. The word kept bouncing around my skull. I built that network from scratch. I patched it when external threat groups poked at it in 2016. I secured it when crypto miners tried to hijack our servers in 2020. And now I was redundant because a guy who wears loafers with no socks said so. I opened my personal laptop. To be clear, I did not hack back into the company database. I did not need to. I am the certified custodian of the Federal Bridge. My status as a contact point for the defense agency does not disappear just because Julian took my building access badge. Until the paperwork clears in Washington, which usually takes about 3 weeks, I am still the registered keeper of the keys. I logged into the external government security portal. It is a plain gray website that looks like it was designed in 1998, but it has more security layers than the Pentagon. It requires 2-factor authentication, a hardware token, and a password that is 32 characters of absolute gibberish. Access was granted. I navigated directly to the asset status page. There they were, the 3 federal audit nodes. Node 1 was offline and safe in the physical server room. Node 2 was offline and locked in the backup vault. Node 3 was active. My stomach dropped slightly. Node 3 was the laptop I had left on the conference room table. It should not be active. It was programmed to go into a hard sleep mode the moment my biometrics were removed from the immediate vicinity for more than 10 minutes. Unless he forced a hard reboot, I muttered to the empty room. I watched the logs populate in real time. The timestamps were glowing in amber text against a black background. 11:42 a.m. hard reset initiated. 11:45 a.m. BIOS challenge failed. 11:46 a.m. BIOS challenge failed. 11:50 a.m. Admin override attempted by user J. Vance. He was trying to brute force a federally encrypted machine using his corporate administrator credentials. It was like trying to open a bank vault with a library card. "Julian, you absolute idiot," I whispered. I took a slow sip of water, my eyes glued to the screen. Every failed attempt was being logged not just on the machine itself, but on the mirrored server at the defense agency. He was flagging himself with every incorrect password. He was waving a giant digital flag that said, "Look at me, I am unauthorized, and I am touching sensitive military equipment." Then the log changed color to a flashing dark red. 12:05 p.m. Perimeter breach alert. Intrusion detected on port 8080. He had not just booted the laptop. He had plugged it into the open internet. I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. The audit nodes are strictly air-gapped devices. They are never under any circumstances supposed to touch the public web. They connect only via a secure encrypted tunnel, by plugging an Ethernet cable into it, or worse, connecting it to the office Wi-Fi. Julian had just exposed a classified government endpoint to the wild internet. This was not a simple HR dispute anymore. This was a violation of the Espionage Act under 18 U.S.C. 793, which governs the gathering, transmitting, or losing of national defense information. It was also a breach of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act under 18 U.S.C. 1030. This was federal agents and windbreakers showing up at your house at 6 a.m. territory. I had a choice. I could call him. I could call the Apex front desk, get Julian on the line, and scream at him to unplug the machine before the automated federal sweepers flagged it. I could save his career. I could save the company the massive fines they were about to face. I reached for my phone. I dialed the main office number. "Thank you for calling Apex Wealth," the automated voice began. I hung up. "Redundant," I said aloud to my empty office. "I am redundant." If I was redundant, then my warnings were redundant too. Instead of saving him, I opened a new email window. I typed in the address of my handler at the defense agency, Agent Peterson. Peterson is a man who has no sense of humor and even less patience for corporate incompetence. Subject: Notice of status change and potential asset compromise. Agent Peterson. Effective 9 a.m. today, my employment with Apex Wealth Management was terminated by the incoming Vice President of Technology. I was ordered to surrender physical custody of Audit Node 3, serial number 8892 Alpha, to Mr. Julian Vance, despite my explicit verbal warnings regarding federal chain of custody protocols. I am currently observing erratic activity on the asset beacon, indicating unauthorized login attempts and network connection. I am no longer on the premises and cannot physically intervene. Please advise. Regards, George Henderson. I hit send. The beauty of the federal system is the bureaucracy. I had done my legal duty. I had reported my separation from the firm. I had reported the asset location. Whatever happened next was entirely, 100% on Julian Vance. I refreshed the log page. 12:15 p.m. directory structure accessed via guest protocol. Julian had managed to bypass the primary login screen using a guest account exploit. It is an old trick that works on consumer Windows machines, but on these secure government units, it triggers an automated honeypot mode. The machine lets you think you are in. It shows you folders. It lets you click files, but it is silently recording every single keystroke, every mouse movement, and it is sandboxing you in a digital cage while it traces your exact geographic location. Julian definitely thought he had cracked it. I could practically see him high-fiving his junior assistants in the conference room. "Look at this," he would say. "George locked it down, but I got in. I am a genius." He was browsing the honeypot files. He was opening folders labeled Confidential Budget and Project Alpha. These folders were filled with empty decoy files, digital flypaper designed to waste an intruder's time. But then I saw the metadata tag for a file he uploaded onto the machine. File name dpitchdeckfinalv2.px. Size, 45 megabytes. He was not just looking around. He was using the classified laptop to store his own presentation. He was treating a government audit node like a common USB flash drive. I leaned back in my chair. The silence of my house felt heavy, charged with static. "You did not just touch the stove, Julian," I said, watching the cursor blink on my screen. "You just climbed headfirst inside the oven." To understand why Julian is currently dancing on a digital landmine, you have to understand how I got hired in the first place. Exactly 7 years ago, this company, Apex Wealth Management, landed a massive contract to process sensitive transaction data for a sub-agency of the Department of Defense. It was the kind of money that buys executives second homes in Aspen. But with that money came a very specific clause. The security clause stated that Apex had to maintain a localized, hardened infrastructure for all data validation. No cloud, no outsourced vendors, no Google Drive. Just cold, hard steel servers in a locked room, managed by a custodian with a high-level federal security clearance. That was me. I was not hired because of my sparkling personality or my ability to pivot tables in Excel. I was hired because I hold a top-secret clearance with an active polygraph. I am the physical human requirement for their multi-million-dollar federal revenue stream. For the first 5 years, the old CTO, a man named Donald Bennett, understood this perfectly. Donald was great. He wore cargo shorts to the office and looked like he slept in a server rack, but he respected the hardware. He knew that when I said no, it was not a suggestion. It was a law of physics. George is the wall. Donald used to tell the other executives, "We do not drill holes in the wall." Then Donald retired to raise alpacas in Vermont, and the board of directors decided they wanted fresh energy. They wanted a disruptor. Enter Julian Vance. I remember his very first week on the job. He walked into my office, which was actually a converted storage closet next to the main server room, because I needed to be close to the physical machines. He wrinkled his nose in disgust. "Little dark in here, isn't it?" Julian asked, leaning against the doorframe. He was sipping a green juice that cost more than my hourly rate. "Keeps the heat down," I said, not looking up from my monitors. "Right," Julian said. "Listen, George, I am looking at the organizational chart and I am seeing a lot of hardware dependency in your sector. We need to virtualize this, move it to the lake." "The lake?" I asked, finally turning my chair around. "The data lake?" "The cloud," Julian smirked. "We need to be agile. You cannot virtualize the audit nodes," I said simply. "They are air-gapped by federal mandate." Clause 4, Section B of the Department of Defense contract. He rolled his eyes. "Everything can be virtualized. George, you just need to have the vision for it. You legacy IT types are so attached to your boxes. It is cute. Really, it is like collecting vinyl records. Cute." That was the moment. That was the exact second I decided that if this man ever fell off a cliff, I would not be the one throwing him a rope. He saw me as a relic, a middle-aged man in a faded polo shirt who plugged cables in and turned routers off and on again. He did not see the complexity of the encryption keys I managed. He did not see the daily external probes I deflected. He did not see that I was the only reason his corporate email account did not get read by teenagers in non-extradition countries. He saw a janitor. Over the next few months, Julian chipped away at my department. He fired my junior administrator, a bright 24-year-old kid named Toby Clark, because Toby refused to install unauthorized monitoring software on the secure subnet. He cut our budget for spare parts. He started calling the server room the museum. I took it all. I kept my head down. I documented every denied request, every security policy violation, and every sarcastic email. I knew guys like Julian. They float upward on a bubble of hot air until they hit an altitude where the oxygen runs out. But I never thought he would be stupid enough to fire the compliance officer. Back in the present, I stared at the blinking cursor on my monitor at home. The honeypot on the laptop was active. Julian was currently exploring a decoy folder I had created a year ago called Project Ghost. It contained absolutely nothing of value, just gigabytes of random noise data that looked like encrypted code. But to a guy like Julian, who only understood buzzwords, it probably looked like the holy grail of analytics. I remembered a conversation from 2 weeks ago. Julian had been bragging about a pitch he was making to a major defense contractor, Lockheed Defense Solutions. He needed a wow factor. He wanted to show them that Apex was not just a wealth management firm, but a technological powerhouse. "I need something sexy," he had said, pacing around my office while I tried to audit the firewall logs. "I need to show them we have military-grade analytics." "We do not," I had told him. "We process payments. We are not spies." "Not with that attitude," he had sneered. And now, looking at the security logs and seeing that DODD pitch deck file sitting on the secure drive, I realized exactly what he was planning to do. He was going to use the audit node, a mysterious, heavy black laptop with government stamps, as a visual prop. He was going to walk into a meeting with a major defense contractor, open up a classified government machine, and say, "Look what my team built." He was not just incompetent, he was professionally suicidal. I felt a strange, brief pang of sadness, not for him, of course, but for the sheer waste of a career. He had a degree from Wharton. He had a great future. He was about to trade it all for a cool PowerPoint demonstration. I minimized the live log window and opened a fresh document on my screen. I titled it Chronology of Compromise. I started typing. Date, October 14. Event, unauthorized seizure of federal asset. Actor, Julian Vance. I was not writing a diary. I was writing an official affidavit because when the dust settled, there would be a massive federal inquiry, and I fully intended to be the one holding the pen, not the one in the handcuffs. There is a saying in my line of work: you can delete the file, but you cannot delete the shadow. Metadata is the shadow. It tells you who created the file, when they touched it, what machine they were using, and how long they stared at it. Julian thinks that because he has the physical laptop, he has control. He does not understand that the laptop is just a terminal. The brain is watching him from a distance. I spent the afternoon compiling a detailed security dossier. I cataloged the log of Julian connecting the classified machine to the office Wi-Fi, his attempts to disable the local security protocols, and his failed login overrides. But the most damning evidence was the laptop's automated webcam logs. The device is designed to snap a photo whenever a security policy is violated. Julian had generated 40 security flags in 3 hours. I opened the image cache folder. There he was, grainy and black and white, lit by the glow of the screen, eating a burrito over the government keyboard. I noted the violation in my report. Lack of hygiene compliance for secure hardware. Petty? Yes. Accurate? Absolutely. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed with a 703 area code from Northern Virginia. I answered on the first ring. George, a raspy voice, said, "It belonged to Agent Peterson, my handler at the defense agency. We are seeing unusual telemetry from Node 3. Do you have the device?" "Negative," I said. "I was terminated this morning. The device was confiscated by Julian Vance, the new vice president of technology, against my explicit warning." A heavy silence followed. "He confiscated a federal node? Does he have the encryption key?" "No," I replied. "He is running a restricted guest session, but he has plugged it into the commercial internet and is uploading files onto it." I heard rapid typing on Peterson's end. "We see the packets," Peterson said. "He uploaded a file named DoD Pitch Deck Final. He is pitching to Lockheed Defense Solutions tomorrow. He is going to demo a live classified node as a prop." Peterson sighed. "This is a severe breach. Protocol dictates we brick the device remotely right now." "Wait," I argued. "If you brick it now, Julian will claim the hardware was faulty. He will blame me, spin the story, and escape accountability. But if you let him walk into that meeting and present it, you have him on espionage and fraud. You have him dead to rights." Peterson paused. "When is the meeting?" "Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Boardroom beats," I said. "I still have access to the calendar servers." "All right," Peterson said. "We will hold fire. But George, you are reactivated under consultant status with a temporary clearance override. Monitor the asset. If he tries to email anything out, kill the connection, and we need a witness on site when we move in." "I am fired, Peterson. They won't let me in." "They won't have a choice," Peterson replied. "My team will meet you at 1 p.m. tomorrow." The line went dead. I opened the legacy portal and updated my contact info, changing my title to External Compliance Auditor. The trap was set. By 9 a.m. the next morning, the office was in absolute digital chaos. The authentication servers run a handshake protocol every morning at 8:00 a.m. that requires manual approval from the lead admin. Since I was not there, the servers assumed the network had been compromised and went into lockdown mode. Traders were screaming, VPN tunnels were down, and the security badge system was disabled. My phone buzzed. It was Rachel Foster from accounting, calling from the bathroom. "George, it is the apocalypse here," she whispered. "Julian is running around claiming you planted a logic bomb. He is threatening to sue you." "Let him try," I said. "What is he doing now?" "He is in boardroom B, trying to get his presentation ready on that black laptop. He says it is the only stable machine in the building." I laughed. The node was stable because it ran on an independent, military-grade architecture, isolated from the network Julian had broken. "Rachel," I said, "do me a favor. Take a long lunch and stay away from boardroom B this afternoon." At 10:30 a.m., the node flagged an external projector connection. I accessed the remote desktop view. On the screen was a slide titled, "Future Warfare, Apex Wealth's Defense Analytics." Underneath it read, proprietary technology developed by Julian Vance. He had pasted a white text box over the federal government watermark to hide it. I took a screenshot. That was fraud. Then he opened a decoy spreadsheet I had created, containing fake data, intending to present it as a live military transaction feed. I took another screenshot. I went to my closet and pulled out my charcoal suit. At 1:15 p.m., I pulled into the visitor parking lot. Two black SUVs with tinted windows and government plates were already idling near the entrance. I walked up and climbed into the back of the lead SUV. It smelled like leather and serious intent. Agent Peterson nodded to me. Status? He is in boardroom B, I said. He thinks he is about to close a $50 million deal by presenting our hardware as his own prototype. Peterson shook his head. Advanced stupidity. We go in now. Secure the asset and secure the individual. He is the VP, I warned. He will make a scene. Peterson removed his sunglasses. George, in 5 minutes, he is going to realize he does not even own the shirt on his back. We walked toward the glass doors of the lobby, me in my sharp suit flanked by 4 federal agents wearing badges that read Federal Bureau of Investigation and Department of Defense. The receptionist, Kelly, looked up, her eyes wide. George, I thought you were fired. I am just here to pick up my laptop, Kelly, I said. Is Julian in boardroom B? Yes, but he said no interruption, she whispered. Peterson leaned over the desk. Ma'am, we are the interruption. He flashed his credentials. Kelly paled and buzzed us through. We walked through the bullpen. The office was in chaos from the outage and heads turned as we passed. I caught Rachel's eye and gave her a small wink. We reached boardroom B. I could hear Julian practicing his speech inside. Peterson nodded to me. I pushed the doors open. Julian was at the head of the table. The room was dark, lit only by the blue glow of his slides. He froze. George, what the hell are you doing here? I told security to escort you out. Who are these people? Get out of here. Peterson flipped the wall switch. The fluorescent lights flickered on, exposing the sweat on Julian's forehead. Julian Vance, Peterson said calmly. I am the VP of Technology and you are trespassing, Julian snapped. Special Agent Peterson, Department of Defense Inspector General, and Agent Zhang, FBI Cyber Division. Peterson said. Julian laughed nervously. Is this a joke? Did George hire actors to scare me? It is not a prank, Julian, I said. We have reason to believe you are in unauthorized possession of classified government hardware, Peterson said, pointing to the laptop on the table. Serial number 8892 Alpha. Julian scoffed. This laptop is Apex property. I retained the asset. It is standard company policy. He gestured to the slide deck. I developed the technology on the screen myself. Zhang tapped her tablet, recording the statement. Suspect claims personal ownership of classified protocols. Suspect? Julian's face went red. You can't just walk in here and take our equipment. The laptop, Julian, I said. The one you are using. It is not company property. Mr. Vance, step away from the device, Peterson ordered, shifting his posture. The air in the room grew cold. Julian reluctantly stepped back. Fine, look at it. It is just standard Windows. Peterson put on black nitrile gloves, unplugged the HDMI cable, and turned the laptop over. There was a shiny, crooked Intel Inside sticker in the center. See? Julian smirked. Standard consumer hardware. You bought that sticker from Amazon, didn't you? I asked. Agent Zhang used tweezers to peel back the blue sticker. Underneath was a red and silver metal plate riveted into the casing. Peterson read it aloud. Property of U.S. Government. Department of Defense. Classified system. Level 5 clearance required. Peterson looked at Julian. Unauthorized access, tampering, or removal of this plate is a federal felony punishable by up to 20 years in prison. Julian stared at the plate, his mouth open. That was not there before. George is framing me. Mr. Vance, this serial number matches our logs from 3 years ago, Peterson said. We have digital logs of you bypassing security protocols, uploading commercial files, and audio of you instructing your staff to cover this plate. Julian slumped against the whiteboard. I was just trying to streamline things. You breached the Espionage Act under 18 U.S.C. 793 and the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act under 18 U.S.C. 1030, Peterson said, pulling out handcuffs. You are under arrest. No, Julian whispered. I have a meeting. Lockhead is coming. Lockhead is not coming, I said. I canceled the meeting from your calendar 10 minutes ago, citing a legal emergency. Julian looked at me, his eyes wet. The arrogance was gone. George, please tell them. I did not know. Ignorance is not a defense, Julian, I said, especially when you buy a sticker to cover the warning label. Jang placed the laptop in a Faraday bag as Peterson handcuffed Julian. They marched him out, sobbing. The aftermath was swift. The Department of Defense issued an immediate stop work order on all contracts held by Apex Wealth Management. That contract represented 60% of the company's revenue, gone in a single day. 2 days later, the CEO, James, called me. George, we owe you a massive apology, James said. Julian was a rogue actor. We want you back. Title bumps, salary bumps, Chief Information Officer. The D won't lift the suspension unless a trusted custodian is in charge. No thanks, James, I said. You let Julian tear down the security walls because you liked his buzzwords. You did not value the foundation until it cracked. We can change, James pleaded. You will have to do it with an external auditor, I said. My rate is $400 an hour, 4-hour minimum. I hung up. Julian is currently awaiting trial. The fraud and tampering charges are sticking. He faces real federal prison time and a permanent ban from government data. His career is over. As for Apex, they hired my consulting firm. I go in once a week, wear jeans, and fix their servers for an obscene fee. Yesterday, I logged into the admin console and saw Julian's old disabled account. I typed, delete user J Vance recursive. The system prompted if I was sure. I hit enter. User deleted. It was like he never existed. Moral of the story: if you are going to fire the person who holds the keys to the kingdom, make sure you do not steal the lock on your way out. And always read the sticker on the bottom. Real power works quietly in the background. Disrespecting expertise has steep consequences. Appreciate you all for sticking through. See you in the next story.